Hi guys, welcome to another video. I've already made a different video to get today, and I've also already made this video before, but a few of my opinions have changed. Not much though. So this is my rewrite of the first season of Total Drama Island. Episode 1, Non-Elimination. Episode 2, Screaming Gophers Win. Actually, these colors should be changed. Screaming Gophers win. Killer Bass vote out Ezekiel. He's not relevant to any major plot lines this season. Maybe have him get farther in a different season, just not this one, because I don't see why he has to get farther here. Gwen wins the sleeping challenge. The Killer Bass still vote out Eva. I'm keeping this the same. Episode 4, Killer Bass finally get a win. Screaming Gophers have to vote out someone. If we're going off of who's irrelevant to the plot this season, it would either be Justin or Noah. These two should definitely be the first two out of the team. I'll just say Justin's out first because he doesn't have a voice actor for this season, or his voice actor wasn't available at the time. So maybe keep Noah around a bit longer. Instead of Justin performing in the talent contest, have Noah perform and then have him mess it up. And instead of having Heather read out Gwen's diary, pretty faulty move in my opinion. Instead of doing that, make her actually do something like to manipulate people. Like, she has this alliance with Lindsay and Beth, but to maybe like manipulate Izzy and Owen into joining her alliance. And she realizes that Owen is too close to Noah, so she convinces Izzy, Lindsay and Beth to vote for him, and he's also getting votes from people who didn't like how he did in the talent show. But Heather actually does her dance in this universe. So Noah's out. Episode 6, Katie and Sadie cost their team the challenge. I think it would be more realistic to eliminate Sadie than Katie, because Katie was a stronger link in the challenges. Phobia Factor is the first episode that I think needs major fixing, because the challenge was unfair in the first... the challenge was completely unfair, because some people who did accomplish their challenge or their fear didn't get to their point, and one of those people actually got voted out when they would have been safe had it not been for this. So I think that the Screaming Gophers should win. Beth, Gwen, Heather, Izzy, Lindsay, Owen and Trent all accomplished their fears originally. Cody technically did accomplish his, but his point wasn't counted for some reason, since he did try to defuse the bomb. I guess they didn't count it because he didn't succeed, but he still tried his best and he didn't run away, so he should have had a point. So Lashana is the only Screaming Gopher not to have a point, but they still win. The Killer Bass still have DJ, Duncan and Sadie, except it's Katie this time that accomplish their fears. Tyler and Harold both should have had points since they faced their fears, which puts Bridget, Courtney and Jeff on the chopping block, since you can't vote for people who accomplish their fears. So who do I think is going to get voted off? Who is going to get voted off? It's my choice. I'm not just going along with what I think would happen. I'm going along like in the what ifs. I'm going along with what I would do if I were a writer. So DJ is tight with Jeff. There's no way he's voting Jeff off. And he also likes Bridget more than he likes Courtney, so that's a vote for Courtney. I say Duncan probably votes for Bridget. That's who he voted for originally, I think. Harold probably votes for Courtney. And so would Katie. And Tyler also. Bridget and Jeff are kind of in our relationship, so they have no choice but to vote for Courtney. And Courtney votes Jeff because she isn't close with him. But that's 6 to 1 to 1. Courtney is voted out. I think this would be more realistic, and although she is necessary for major plot lines, you'll see why she's just going to return later on at the merge. Episode 8, Izzy costs them the challenge, she goes home. Simple as that. Episode 9, this is the one where Cody got mauled by a bear. I think this was an extremely contrived way to eliminate him. And I don't really like the way they did this because it was just felt really unrealistic. So instead, I'm making the Gophers win the challenge. And Beth hasn't left Heather's alliance just yet because Heather hasn't actually started mistreating her allies because she wants them to stay close to her. The boss vote off Tyler. None of that really liked him, so he gets voted off due to his romance with Lindsay on the other team. In the cooking challenge, all of the Gophers are pretty necessary to keep in, or it would be really contrived. I feel like Heather would be... This is the episode where I think Heather ruins her alliance with Beth. Beth is starting to find her too bossy. And instead of it being Lindsay that betrays Heather by getting her locked in the fridge, Lashana passes her makeup to Beth. And Beth throws it in the fridge. Heather is absolutely fuming at Beth. However, the Gophers have won, so nothing happens to them. Who do the Bass vote off? I'm thinking to actually have a storyline with Katie, like to make her the head chef. And then people on the Bass are starting to like her. Like, not romantically, but they actually welcome her into the alliance, and Harold is at the bottom of the team, and they want to vote him off. But the problem is, Harold has the immunity idol, and he uses, and then so as everyone else is voting for him, Harold can essentially choose who he wants to eliminate. Who do I think he would realistically want to eliminate? Duncan. But he's essential for plot lines, so he can't be eliminated, at least not yet. Well, at least not in the pre-merge. Like, I think Duncan's actually a finalist. Or I shouldn't spoil this, but in my original, he was a finalist. And he might be in this one. I do already have it planned, but I'm not gonna spoil it yet. Like, he was a finalist in the last one. But ultimately, Katie isn't really essential for plot lines. Like, just have her do something. To a point where Duncan is really starting to have the point where she's like helping Duncan, or Duncan starts to like her or something. Like, not romantically, because that has to be with Courtney. Obviously not like that, but yeah, just have her do something that makes Harold want her out more than Duncan. Episode 11, I need to keep the boss in. So make them win the trust challenge. And just have Cody have Cody be like really weak in the challenge. Maybe do that thing with Gwen that Heather did originally. To the point where people start to want him out. Only for Cody to... So he gets voted out by the... Even though he was part of Gwen's majority alliance. Or tie alliance, not majority alliance. But even though he was part of that tie... Like, and he still gets voted by them. And then Heather and Lindsay just go along with it to stay. So he's voted off. I feel like, because obviously Heather can't be eliminated. Episode 12, again, this happens. Now, realistically, Heather's going to be eliminated, but we can't have her get eliminated here because she's the main antagonist. So how am I going to eliminate someone here? I'm going to make it that Heather obviously has Lindsay on her side, and I guess Owen too. But then that's still 4 votes against 3. Maybe have Beth mess up the challenge, and maybe be the one to fail in the first round instead of Lindsay. Have it happen immediately, and so Heather is able to get Trent on board to vote out Beth, and Beth is voted out 4-3. A really close vote, but Heather can't be out just yet. Well, Heather can't be out yet, so it has to be Beth. Episode 13, making the boss lose. Sadly, Harold has got to go. Harold is one of my favourite characters, but I would have him get far in action rather than Island. So now we have the same merge as the canon with a slightly altered pre-merge. DJ, Bridget, Duncan, Jeff, Gwen, Heather, Lashawna, Lindsay, Owen, and Trent. Episode 14, instead of having the active contestants compete, it's an episode for the eliminated contestants to have a chance to get back in. They have like a boys versus girls round, since both of the people I'm planning to bring back are girls. I'm going to have the girls team win. So I'm going to bring all of them up. Beth, Katie, Izzy, Courtney, Sadie, and Eva. Then in the next part they get split into teams of 3. So they get to choose their teams. Courtney, Eva, and Izzy versus Beth, Katie, and Sadie. Beth, Katie, and Sadie lose. And now it is the finals where the top 3 all get to... Well, they all have to compete in a final challenge. Overall, Izzy... Well, it's an eating challenge, so Izzy is going to win it just by, like, swallowing everything, which is how her team was winning every time. Because Izzy was just too good. Courtney and Eva have to play. Courtney said in World Tour that she had a very strong stomach. And Eva's very mad at her for voting her off. Eva is trying as hard as she can, but Courtney is a pretty good eater, so I'm making her win. and Eva has to go back home. Izzy and Courtney rejoin the game. And yeah, episode 15. Who do I think should get out? Probably Bridget, because she's just not essential to any plot lines. Maybe have like I don't know, maybe have her be like a popularity threat, since they think there's gonna be a jury vote. People start voting out the good social players. So Heather has 4 votes, and she gets all of them to vote for Bridget. And I guess, and like all the other votes might be split. Like there's probably some for Heather, but again, she can't be eliminated yet. Episode 16. I will still have Heather pull that stunt, but have it like after she wins immunity. Trent is really the only one here who isn't essential for any future plot lines in my plan, so he gets out. He has to get out, but I'd have Heather pull the stunt, but after she knows she has immunity. The way she did it was really risky, so I think she should at least know she has immunity before this. Episode 17. Have Heather and Lashana win immunity. Duncan makes the guys' alliance. And then Heather doesn't let Lindsay take immunity with her. I'm not sure why she didn't, but it's actually for a plotline. So Duncan's guys' alliance ends up getting leaked by Owen. They all plan to vote out Lindsay to weaken Heather's alliance, because she is a big alliance. Owen is part of that alliance, but Duncan threatens him into voting with him. But now Heather's trying to force Owen to vote with her, but he doesn't listen. Instead, Gwen and Lashana are kind of conflicted, because they don't know whose side Owen is on. Courtney, however, the girls all agree to just vote out Duncan to stop this alliance from happening. But Courtney doesn't want her boyfriend to go, so she tells him about it. So that's 5 votes against 5. Lindsay and Duncan. But then Duncan can maybe or actually I'm thinking maybe Courtney could go to Lashana, or someone could go to either Gwen or Lashana and convince them to vote out to Lindsay to weaken Heather. Because Duncan cannot be eliminated yet. So Lindsay is voted out. In the bike challenge, instead of having an automatic elimination, the way this works punishes the people that do well in the challenge. So this is what I think should happen. Heather builds her own bike, since Lindsay isn't here, and it's built for speed, so she wins with her bike. And since Izzy cycled off with Lashana, Lashana is now gunning for Izzy. And while the girls do want to target the guys' alliance, the guys have 3 votes. Owen decides that Owen doesn't want Izzy to get out, so he just votes randomly. Yeah, Owen votes randomly. And then so then the 3 guys, Lashana and Courtney, because she doesn't want Duncan to go, they all vote for Izzy, which is ultimately a majority. Owen tries to save her, but it isn't enough. Episode 19. This is the horror movie challenge. We have Courtney here instead of Izzy. So this is how I'm going to make it work. Duncan ultimately realizes that the guys in his alliance are social threats. He decides that it would actually be a better move to align with Heather. And he decides to just keep Owen in his alliance because he's easy to manipulate. But he's planning to vote out Owen soon, but he'll just keep Owen as a vote. Jeff and DJ are smarter than Owen, so they're not easy to manipulate. DJ is probably the biggest social threat, so Duncan gets Courtney, Heather, and Owen, his alliance, to vote him. Guessing Jeff and DJ realise what Duncan did, they vote Duncan. Gwen has immunity, and her and Lashawna vote for Heather. But this is enough to eliminate DJ. So now at the final 7, Wawa and Aqua gone wild. Courtney is the one to shoot Heather instead of Izzy. That would be pretty funny. So Gwen wins, Duncan 2nd, Jeff 3rd, Lashawna 4th, Owen 5th, Courtney 6th, Heather 7th. This is the canonical results, except Courtney is replaced with Izzy in this time. No, Izzy is replaced by Courtney. So this alliance clearly doesn't last, as Heather is now gunning for Courtney. She still kind of has Owen as a vote, as she convinces him that to vote with her, to vote out Courtney. And Lashawna and Gwen, as much as they hate Heather, they decide to keep her around because so they can just see her clean the toilet, which was her punishment. So they decide to vote out Courtney, knowing that it was her or Heather. So same canonical final 6. Just have the episode go by as normal. And I do think the way Jeff got out was a bit contrived, but I'd maybe have the votes make a bit more sense. Like, Heather and Duncan vote Jeff. Gwen and Jeff have that bond. Then there's Owen, who Heather and Duncan can just manipulate. And Heather doesn't do that thing with Owen to make him angry at her. Then there's Lashawna, who again decides to just keep Heather in because she knows she'll be easy to beat. So she votes for Owen because he's too popular and he's in that alliance with Heather and Duncan. So that's 1 for Owen, 2 for Heather from Jeff and Gwen, and 3 for Jeff. So that's enough to kick Jeff out. Episode 22, instead of having the vote to eliminate someone, have the vote to save someone and give them a free spot into the final 4. And have them choose Owen. So he's safe. He's guaranteed a place in the final 4. So in Camp Castaways, at the end, this Mr. Coconut thing could still happen. I don't really mind, but I guess it could still happen. But then maybe Owen loses the coconut at the end or something, and they have to vote for the elimination. Owen was given Owen was the favourite, so Gwen and Lashawna are an alliance of 2, but the other 3 are all working together. Duncan probably would want Owen out because of his popularity, but Lashawna was also pretty popular and was a close second in popularity to Owen. So they decide to target her. Gwen realizes that she's in trouble now. Then have this challenge have two parts, like a girls versus guys part, and then a part for immunity. Between the two, let's win. So just have it go by as normal. Heather wins the challenge for the girls, but then they have to do a challenge, and Gwen wins immunity into the final 3. So the other 3 have to vote together. So Duncan and Heather both vote for Owen because he's the biggest popularity threat, proved by him getting the popularity immunity. So they need to vote him out, since they're both fairly dislikable, especially Heather. But then there's Owen, who Owen and Gwen's votes are up in the air. I'm guessing Gwen would maybe Gwen chooses Owen. Or no, maybe, yeah, she chooses Owen because she sees him as the biggest popularity threat. Just make Owen get voted out 3-1. Final 3, Duncan. It's like a dare challenge. Heather and Gwen it's a dare challenge, but instead of it being sudden death, like first person to 10 freebies wins immunity and get to take their opponent. Duncan and Heather are teaming up, but Heather and Gwen are getting carried away, and they dare each other. They keep daring each other, allowing Duncan to take the W on the first spot in the final 2. They both think that Gwen's time is up because Duncan and Heather were both in an alliance, but Duncan decides to vote Heather off because he figures like he's spying on Chris having a meeting, and it turns out that the jury vote thing was just a lie. Like it wasn't actually gonna happen, and it's a challenge. He views both of them as threats, but he ultimately has to decide between them. And he decides to take Gwen to the end because she'd be less prepared to fight him, since she probably wasn't expecting it and would have had less time planning. I mean, they both thought it was a jury vote, but he decides to take Gwen and vote Heather out, simply viewing Heather as someone harder to beat than Gwen, even though both of them are quite big threats. So Duncan and Gwen are the finalists of Season 1. Duncan the delinquent versus Gwen the goth girl. They're both gonna have a winning ending, but I also think that there should only be one canonical ending, than just one that's like not actually canon, and isn't considered canon for the rest of the show. Overall, who do I think should win? I think that ultimately a lot of people would be rooting for Gwen as the main protagonist of the season. However, and although I do prefer Gwen as a character to Duncan, I do think that the canonical winner should be Duncan, because you wouldn't expect him to win, and you would expect Gwen to win. So this is my elimination order. 22nd Ezekiel, 21st Eva, 20th Justin, 19th Noah, 18th Sadie, 17th Courtney, 16th Izzy, but they return later. So 17th Tyler, 16th Katie, 15th Cody, 14th Beth, 13th Harold. Merge 12th Bridget, 11th Trent, 10th Lindsay, 9th Izzy, 8th DJ, 7th Courtney, 6th Jeff, 5th Lashonna, 4th Owen, 3rd Heather, 2nd Gwen, 1st Duncan. So Duncan is the winner of this. Thanks for watching.